All right. Well, my name is Ashetoreth Basil Charland, and I'm known as Bobby Bratwurst in the state of New Hampshire. I'm known as New England's worst drag act. I've been doing drag for a little over a year now. I had my debut in March of last year at the Hop Knot Manchester's open stage. And I immediately fell in love with it. I had a really great support network of people that were encouraging me to get on the stage and kind of like show off my creative ideas. And I've been doing all kinds of shows since then. I entered the Mixed Gay Granite State pageant this year. I did not place, but it was a really cool experience for me. And I've gotten to do a few things with the local organizations that work towards LGBT rights in the state of New Hampshire. Most recently, I was on the float for the 603 New Hampshire protest against the bathroom bills that are currently happening in the state of New Hampshire. I was dressed as Lady Liberty in the colors of the trans flag, sitting on a toilet with a megaphone. It was really, really cool. And I got to be, like a really big focal point in the Manchester Pride Parade, which was probably the coolest thing I've done so far. But I really enjoy getting to funnel my creative energy into being in front of people. I do lip sync and I also sometimes sing live depending on the situation. And I'm decent at dancing.
Nice. So are you a singer? Are you traditionally like a theater kid?
Yeah, so I actually was in theater a ton when I was younger. I was in a youth theater when I lived in Texas, actually. I spent the first 22 years of my life in Texas, and I was in youth theater the entire time I was there. Basically, every single year I was in some sort of production until I aged out of it when I was a senior in high school. My last production that I actually did was Hairspray, and I was Tracy Turnblad, which was really, really cool. I've been tempted to get back into local theater. The Palace Theater in Manchester is actually one of the local, really cool theater big groups in the area. And every once in a while, I'll see an ad on Facebook for like an audition that they're holding, and I'm like, do I want to do that again? Um, but yeah, no, I had a background in theater, and then I actually also have a background in cosplay. I've also been a cosplayer since like 2009. So that kind of gave me a little bit of an edge into like doing the costuming and makeup side of drag, which is why everybody jokes that I kind of spawned into the drag scene fully dressed.
Yeah, that's funny. So what made you want to be a drag king?
Honestly, it all started because I got invited to go to some drag bingo at the Hop Knot Manchester, which is just this like local pretzel and beer place that happens to be LGBT friendly near me. Um, and I just really loved the environment and it was super fun. And they really encourage you to just kind of like come as you are and dress up if you want to. And so, like, I started just dressing up and going to events there and like playing around with like my makeup and my outfits. And I just kept getting flashier and flashier and having more and more fun with it. And eventually, the owner of the bar, Kenny, who is also a drag queen, was like, "Hey, I'm having an open stage, you need to be in it," and basically like dragged me onto the stage. And that was how I had my first performance. And it was really, really cool because up till that point, I had not really been a part of the queer community in Manchester. I'd kind of just been on my own, doing my own thing at my house, not really interacting with anybody. So it was really cool to kind of get pulled out of my house and start to really connect with all the people that were around me. Um, but yeah, that was kind of how I got started.
Wow, that's crazy. It's funny how it happens that way with drag, especially with theater kids. That's like exactly how I got into drag too, where I was just kind of like one night we were just like, let's go to a drag bar. And then I just kind of got up on stage and started doing drag.
Yeah, it's crazy because like New Hampshire is honestly such a small state. It's one of the tiniest states in the entire country, but there is so much drag here. You would not think that like a tiny state and like a small city like I'm in, Manchester is technically the largest state or largest city in the state, but it's still really tiny. But there's still like at least one drag thing going on like every week. I actually have a show on Sunday in Keene, which is about an hour from where I live, but I'm excited to drive up there. It's really pretty.
Nice. So who would you say you're most inspired by?
So that's a little equal parts. So in terms of drag, I feel like I'm not really inspired by like the traditional people you see in the media. I never really started out watching like RuPaul's Drag Race or watching any of those kinds of like drag TV shows. So the only real influence that I kind of have from that area is like Jinx Monsoon, Trixie Mattel, like those like sort of weirder queens. Juno Birch, I believe
But
is her name.
honestly, those are the best queens. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
no, exactly.
Trixie
I
and
always really,
Katya are
really
just
admire.
classic.
Yeah, I really admire the ones that are not afraid to kind of take themselves a little less seriously. Outside of drag, I'm really, really inspired by the YouTube creator Brandon Rogers. My whole persona is actually kind of based off of one character that he made called Bobby Worst, who is just this like perverted, horny terrorist character. And like the whole point of his character is that he's just awful. And growing up, I always felt like I was terrible because I was gay. Like I was made to feel like I was not a great person. I grew up in a religious environment. So like growing up, everybody was like, ah, you know, it's so gross and gay. And I was like, all right, fine. You know, if you're going to say I'm terrible, I'm going to be terrible. And I always really related to that character in that way. Um, but Brandon as a whole is a really, really talented, creative individual. And I've always really admired his ability to like become someone else. So I always kind of drew from his creativity as well. And then also just like local queens and kings to me, like there are people in my area that have been doing drag for a really, really long time. And it's been really, really neat as I've started to do more and more in drag to get to meet these people and watch them perform and kind of like learn their stories and the history behind like how they've been performing and why they do what they do. So, you know, little column A, little column B, little column C. I pick and chooses my inspirations.
So, did you grow up in kind of a red state then?
Yeah, so I grew up in McKinney, Texas, which is like a really tiny little city in, yeah, a city in Texas. And my family was really religious. We went to a Baptist church, and it just wasn't like the most conducive to being gay and creative. But I made do. I made do. I existed purely out of spite. And eventually, when I was old enough, I, you know, scurried on out and continued to do my own thing. While I was in Texas, I did participate in a Rocky Horror Picture Show shadow cast for a couple of years too, which I feel like also kind of contributed on my like travel pathway to doing drag. Like I feel like I'm ticking off all of the boxes for like you are going to become a drag performer if you've done X, Y, and Z. It was a matter of time.
I actually had a guest recently. He's a local performer. His name is Jensen, and we were talking about that. That like, if you haven't seen Rocky Horror, you can't. I was like, if you haven't seen Rocky Horror, you can't be gay. It's like a past, like a what is it? What is it like a rite of passage? Yeah, it's like if you're gay, you have to see Rocky Horror, and it's so funny because we were just talking about that. That like I was in a
Yeah,
shadow
yeah,
cast,
yeah.
he was in a shadow cast of Rocky Horror, and then he did the full on show. It's just so funny that like it's such a universally great gay
Hmm.
movie. And it's like what I was telling him is that Rocky Horror really gave us a voice in the 70s. Even straight people loved Rocky Horror. Straight cis people who are religious watched Rocky Horror and showed it to their kids. You know what I mean? I just think it's so funny that like I was just talking to him about that. It's just such like I called it. If you don't watch Rocky
Yeah,
Horror, you
no,
can't be gay. You have to
it's
like.
definitely like a really great like I feel like there's a little bit of something for everybody in Rocky Horror. And even if you like leave the Rocky Horror Picture Show and you're like, oh my God, I hated that, you still had an experience. And I feel like everybody deserves to have that experience. There's nothing more surreal than being surrounded by like half naked drunk people at 1 in the morning. The ground is sticky, there's toilet paper everywhere. Like and then my whole cast had this tradition where like we'd have to clean up the theater and then we would go to the local IHOP or the local Denny's afterwards. And it just ended up being this like crazy like amalgamation of like ragtag people like ordering pancakes and soup and the tipping the servers
Oh, I
and
know.
I'd get
At
home
two
at like
o'clock in the
4 in the
morning, you're
morning.
in there with a bunch of freaks, and
Mhm.
it's just so funny going in there in full drag, and
Yep,
you're
yep.
like sweating off your
We'd be like in our
makeup.
sweatpants, but like we'd still have all of our floor show makeup
Oh
on.
yeah, yep. That was the good old days. So funny.
Precursor to the 1 a.m. drinks and McDonald's after the drag shows.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just so funny that like you've lived in a different state than us. You've had kind of a totally different experience, but in the same sense, like we've all kind of done the same things. Like everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my god, like been there. Well, also that's just kind of a theater kid thing. Like you're like your makeup's half sweated off, and like you're in your
Yep.
sweatpants and your hoodie in the middle of the night. Like I want some waffles.
Yep. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with drag. Like we'll be in our like dirty t-shirts and our makeup stained shorts, but we'll still have some of our makeup on, no wigs, lashes are gone, lipstick might still be on, but not really. And we're all like, do you want to get pizza?
Yeah, I've been there. So what would you say is your drag style?
I tend to refer to myself as a drag cryptid or a drag thing. I really like to lean into like the creepier, monstery side of things when I can. But I definitely would say trash bag couture. I wear a lot of pleather. Um, I wear a lot of like chokers. I like to wear gloves instead of doing my nails because I always forget to paint my nails. Lots of like neon green and black, but I'm trying to branch out a little bit just for funsies because I feel like I'm getting into a little bit of a rut with my makeup. um, but one of the things about Bobby Bratwurst that I've kind of decided is that there are no rules for him. I want to be that kind of inspiration for people who are questioning whether or not they can do drag because I want them to know that they can do whatever they want and their drag is valid. I had a really great experience where I did a show at the Teetotaler in Concord, New Hampshire. It was a all ages show, which was really cool because I like being able to introduce drag to a younger generation of people who's kind of just starting to discover like who they are and how to express themselves. And I had this kid come up to me afterwards and they were like, I am so excited to see you as a performer. I'm non-binary, and I always thought that I couldn't perform drag because it's a personification of like the extremes of gender. And if I don't identify with a gender, how am I supposed to do drag? And I looked them in the eyes and I was like, you do whatever the fuck you want. Um, and I just want to keep like telling people that. Like, you don't have to look like the drag queens that are on the TV. Like, you don't have to look like the drag race winners. You don't have to look like the Bullet Brothers. Like, you can find your own look and you are valid.
Really awesome. I mean, that's always great. The best thing about drag is that there are no rules. You
We're
know,
all just a bunch of silly people prancing
well,
around
we're
in
also
makeup and
all a bunch
wigs.
of fucking freaks. I always say it's like clown realness. Like
Yes,
we're all a bunch of
I have a lot of
clowns.
clown drag friends. There's quite a few of them in the area actually.
Well, honestly, in my face, like whenever I mean, in my mind, whenever I did drag, I always feel like I'm like clown realness. Even if it's not clowny, even if it's kind of like fish, I still am like, oh, I'm a clown. Like I just
Oh
imagine, like even
yes,
when I'm performing, it's like I'm a clown.
I feel that. Jester serving jester realness.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're not, it's not even like clowning, it's just like being in front of people and entertaining, like I love
Definitely.
that.
So when you're performing and when you're doing theater and stuff like that, do you prefer comedy or drama?
I'm always a sucker for comedy. I'm capable of drama, I will say. I won't sell myself short. I can do it, but I will always prefer to be able to make people laugh. I'm one of those people that kind of like gets bummed out a little bit by stories that are too serious and stories that are about sad things because I just feel like there's enough of that in the world already. So I prefer to giggle and do silly things and, flop around and make people laugh at me. I don't know. There's just something to be said about making people smile, and I really like that.
Everybody I've asked that, nobody has said drama. Everybody has said comedy. And I agree. I love comedy. I do a lot of camp drag. I think camp drag is just so much fun. Where it's, like I said, it's just like clowny. Like, it's just like you're a man, but you're a clown man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. I'm a silly man.
Right, exactly.
I also just feel like the stakes are a little bit lower. When you're making people laugh, you don't have to worry about like, oh my gosh, am I nailing this? Like, am I doing this right? Like, you're just there to make people laugh.
Well, and
I
even
can
if you're
do
not making
serious
people
things,
laugh,
but I
even if
feel
you're
like,
being stupid and you're just like bombing, it's like, well, at least I had fun.
right, exactly.
So, what do you like most about being a drag king?
Honestly, and I never thought I would say this, I really like that I am getting to be around people more. I've always been a little bit of a solitary person. I always was kind of that person that like I don't go out unless I get invited. I don't really go do much outside my house. I'm online a lot. But more and more as I've gotten out and been invited to go do things and interacted with more people, I've just found that I really do enjoy being around people, and getting to like kind of hear their stories and talk about their lives and just connect with people and feel like, especially with the world being the way it is and things being a little more tumultuous, it feels good to know that there are people that you can, surround yourselves with that are good people. Um, good community.
Yeah, that's got to be really nice to have because even what you were saying about drag being in a small community, that's kind of how it is out here in Albuquerque. But the people here are not really a community. They're all very competitive with each other, unless you're like part of like a little mean girl clique. And so that's kind of why I retired. But I've noticed that there are communities out there. It's just like in New Mexico, it's not like
Mhm.
that.
And I got really, really lucky. That's not to say that there are dramatic moments that we have in our community, and maybe I'm just not privy to them. But I feel like I really, really lucked out and found this really solid community of people that just is old enough that they don't have time to deal with drama and they'd rather just communicate with each other openly. Any criticisms that we give each other is always like from a really good place and like is constructive. And even if like somebody is wiling out and acting crazy, we're kind of the type of people that will just be like, "Hey, do you want to come talk about that instead of acting crazy?" Um, and I just think that's really cool because I do think that the drag community as a whole has a problem with being toxic. And it's super funny that I'm saying that as somebody whose drag persona is built around being toxic and terrible. I'm actually a ray of sunshine outside of drag. And I just think that we don't need to be mean to each other. People are mean enough to the LGBT community already. We should be nice to each other, lift each other up when we can, because there's no reason to be fighting each other.
Yeah, for sure. I've actually found more of a community in here in people doing other kinds of arts and stuff like that because in here in the drag community, they treat it like it's RuPaul's Drag Race and I'm like, "Girl, this is Albuquerque, New Mexico." Like
Yeah.
we call it Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like we are nobody, hun. Calm down. Like even Calorie Kardashian got on RuPaul's Drag Race. She's an Albuquerque queen, and she got eliminated second. But she, in my mind, got eliminated first because the person who got eliminated before her, that she supposedly kind of out lip synced, was Miss Vanjie. And I was like, well, who do they remember from that season? Not Calorie Kardashian. They remember Miss
Yeah,
Vanjie. You know
that's
what I
so
mean?
funny.
That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. So, what would you say you struggle most with in your career?
Believing that I am good enough to be doing what I'm doing. I suffer from a little bit of imposter syndrome. Maybe a lot of it. I used to be really, really confident more when I was in, middle school. When I started to get into high school was when people started to kind of notice that I was a little bit of a weird person. And I went to a private Christian school. So I was not super popular. I marched to the beat of my own drum and I did not stop doing that. And people didn't really like me very much. And even though I was really confident in my decision to be myself, it wore me out. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, like, do I want people looking at me? When these people are looking at me, like, do they actually think I'm good at what I'm doing or are they making fun of me secretly? And even though I have this really great community of encouraging people, I still struggle sometimes where I'm like backstage about to go out there and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm dumb. They're going to think this idea is stupid. They're not going to get it, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and fortunately, I'm getting a little bit better at ignoring that little voice, but I would say that's like probably my biggest struggle.
I just think it's funny that, especially us as drag people, we're like the biggest attention whores on stage. But once we're out of drag, we're like, don't talk to me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like when we're on stage, we're like, everyone look at me. But then, like,
It's so
it's
funny.
the second we're done.
The first couple shows that I did, I had to break this habit. I would finish the show, I would go backstage, change out of my clothes, and I would immediately leave the bar like a
That's so
scared
funny.
cat. And now I'm getting way better about like I'll keep my outfit on, I'll do a couple laps around, I'll chat with some people. Because turns out people are actually excited to see me, and they want to say hi to me after they come see me perform, which is still so crazy to me. Um, but I've gotten way better about not fleeing the premises immediately after my shows.
So is New Hampshire kind of a red state, or are they pretty liberal, just in general?
It's kind of weird. It is definitely the south of the north, but I feel like there's a really good concentration of people who aren't
Is it
conservative.
is it kind of like a
It's
mixed
weird.
bag?
Yeah, it really just depends. I think that if you're in more populated areas of the state, you're going to find more, liberal people. And then when you get into the countryside areas, it's all conservatives. And then they kind of duke it out in the middle areas. So it's definitely a mixed bag here.
It's so weird that it's like that. Is it because out in the boonies they're doing a lot of inbreeding? Is that why they're all red?
I'm not really sure, but it's always funny to me that I'll drive through the sticks and there'll be like the most dilapidated trailer I've ever seen, and it'll have like a giant Trump flag and a giant Trump sign. And I'm like, this is the land that you think immigrants are trying to take from you? That? That's what you're trying? Okay. All right.
Yeah, like in South Park when they're like, "They took our jobs."
Yeah.
Like that's what
You
I think
didn't
about.
want that job.
Oh,
Don't
really?
lie.
No, I know. I love that. I think it's just so funny. These people are just complete hypocrites.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting state. But Boston is really close. Boston, Massachusetts has a very vibrant drag community. I did one of my first shows there. I want to say it was last month. They all start to blend together after a while. But that was really cool. Getting to perform in front of like a different genre of people.
So, what songs do you like to sing, like when you're in drag? Because it's harder to sing boy songs in drag. Like, what's your range? Are you more of a soprano, more of an
Um,
alto?
I'm typically more of an alto, which is nice because I feel like it lends to certain types of songs. Um, it really kind of just depends on my whim. Typically, if I really like a song and it's not being sung by a guy, I can usually find like a karaoke track that's for male voices. I'll just go on YouTube and be like, Toxic, Britney Spears, male key. And then usually I'll be able to find what I'm looking for. For the pageant that I actually recently entered, for my talent, I wanted to do singing, but I was worried that I was going to get worn out if I tried to sing the entire time. So I did this really cool thing where I took the first two songs in the mix that I did and I pre recorded myself singing them. And then I hid my microphone, and the very last song in the mix was just a karaoke track. And so I sang at the very end, and I was very proud of myself because that's the trick is if I go too nuts trying to move around and dance, I get out of breath and then I can't sing. So it's like this very delicate balance where like I want to sing and be a rock star, but I have to be careful.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally get that because you can really wear yourself out, especially when you're really into it and you're running around the stage and you're
Yeah, and I
moving
can't
around.
help myself either. I'll be like, okay, the song is pretty challenging. I need to make sure that I'm really just walking around, not running around. And then the day comes and I'm like jumping up and down and doing all kinds of crazy crap. Rest in peace, my knees. Every single show that I do, I bruise my knees, and I keep telling myself that I'm gonna stop crawling around on the floor and doing knee slides. But every single show, it just like I get possessed, and suddenly I'm on the floor again.
So, what's your favorite performance that you've ever done?
Ooh, that's a toughie. Ah, honestly, I think my favorite. So it's not a single performance, but it's one of the numbers that I've done. I actually made an entire prop for this number. It's "Toxic Love" by Tim Curry from Fern Gully, and I sang the song live. And I made this full size toxic waste barrel um, out of. It's like a cardboard like shipping container, but it's like really big and it's a circle like a barrel. And I hand painted it and I bought a smoke machine and put it inside. So while I sing, it like does this like smoky, like toxic waste thing, and I can like play around in it while I'm singing. And I've done that number, I think, 3 times now because I reuse it every once in a while. And I think it's definitely one of my favorites that I've done just because it's very cohesive. I come out on stage in this like bright yellow biohazard suit that's like all up on me, and then like I do like a little zipper reveal and I have like a skeleton outfit on underneath it, so it's like very like I don't know, it's like kind of based on Hexus a little bit, but it's also just like, ooh, I got dipped in toxic waste and my skin disintegrated, and you know, I'm very proud of that one.
I'm not gonna lie, I gushed a little bit listening to that. I was like, oh my god, that got me so excited. When you said Toxic Love by Tim Curry, I was like, oh my god. Oh my god, I bet that was amazing. Because that's just like, it's such a classic, like, villain song, especially just Tim Curry. Like, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can
And his
never
voice
go
is
wrong with
like
Tim Curry. He's just amazing.
he really is. And I love his work and I love his contributions to the queer scheme. You know, he wasn't necessarily entirely queer himself. Maybe he was, we don't really know. At least I don't really know. I never really looked into it. Maybe I'll Google it
I
later.
mean, I always
Um
think that the people who play their best parts are always like somebody that they can really relate to. So he has to be
right.
a little queer. I
Somewhere
mean,
in
he
there.
can't be that amazing at Rocky Horror and not be a little queer.
Right, exactly. But I love his contributions to queer culture. And it's just a really fun song.
This is a whole second episode that we've just been talking about Tim Curry and Rocky Horror. Like, I'm not even
Right?
kidding. Like, I just felt like the episode that I just aired last Wednesday was this guy named Jensen, like I said, and we spent the whole time talking about Rocky Horror and
I
talking
love
about Tim
that.
Curry because he's just
All
like,
roads lead to Rocky.
well, because like I was telling him, it's a rite of passage to like Rocky, to see Rocky, to be in Rocky when you're queer,
Mhm,
and then just like you were saying, that movie, Tim Curry in general, really contributed to queer awareness. You know what I mean? Because
mhm.
before that, there was Divine and there were a little bit of gay people and stuff, but
Oh, divine.
after Tim Curry and Rocky Horror, in the 90s is when Michael Alec and RuPaul and all of them just really blew up in the scene where they were going on Maury talking about being club kids and being weird and gay, and it was okay. And it was New York, and so it was totally like everybody was down for it, and it made like a huge splash. Like it really paved the way for that 90s scene to happen, and then for us as queer adults to kind of just express ourselves and be okay with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And I loved that about Rocky Horror was that like you as an audience were encouraged to come dressed up. And I feel like that was kind of how I felt when I first started going to drag shows too, was they were like, "Hey, come dressed up, like get slutty, get crazy, wear your goth clothes, like express yourself." And I like that we have safe spaces like that where we can kind of play around with ourselves in, not worry about what other people think.
So what's your favorite like theater show you've ever been in?
So I really, really enjoyed being in Hairspray. I think that out of all the shows that I did, that was the one that I felt the most proud of. I really enjoyed being in Annie. I played Mrs. Hannigan in that one. And we had lots of actual little girls cast in that show that were like just really, really funny. And I had a great time wrangling them backstage. Um, and then the youth theater that I was in used to do this fun thing where every year we would do a best of Broadway show. And rather than do like one whole play, we would like do a couple of songs from different plays. And I always really loved when we did numbers from Cats the musical. We never did that whole musical, but I love Cats the musical. It's just so silly. Um, and the music is just whimsical and crazy. And
And gay. I'm
yes,
sorry. It is
exactly.
gay. Like I always
And
sing
I
like Rum
love a
Tum
good
Tugger.
bodysuit.
Oh, definitely. I always say Rum Tum Tugger is a curious top.
Yes! Oh my god,
Tell
that's
me
fucking hilarious.
he's not like the resident top and they're all just
No,
little bottoms.
exactly, exactly.
Right.
That's accurate information.
So what would you say is your favorite food?
Ooh, I really love burgers. Um, I if I go out to a restaurant, I usually check to see if they have, like, a specialty burger of some sort because trying new burgers is, like, one of my favorite pastimes. I identify with Bob from Bob's Burgers so much. Like, nothing excites me more than a menu that's like, "Our special burger of the day is," and it's, like, something I've never heard of before. I'm like, "I wanna try that."
thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate you. You've been really fun to talk to. And it's so funny, the way I found you is actually my friend on Instagram said, oh my God, this drag king is your wife. Like, he was talking to my husband. He said, this drag king is your wife's doppelganger. And like everything you said, I'm like, oh my God, they are.
I love that so much. Thank you
like,
so much for having me. This was really, really fun. I've actually never done a podcast before,
Awesome.
so thank you for like letting me check that off my bucket list. I feel super important having somebody be like, "Can you be on my podcast?" I feel very legit.
Yeah.
So again, my name is Ashetoreth Basil Charland, also known as Bobby Bratwurst. You can find me on Instagram at Bobby Bratwurst, or if you like me behind the persona, you can follow me at Ashe the Crash. That is ASHE the Crash on Instagram. You can also find me on TikTok under both of those handles as well. I don't have any big projects coming up, but I am always posting things. So keep your eye on my Instagram for more information, and hopefully we'll see each other again someday.
Yeah, and if you ever make it out to New Mexico, let me know. I'll help you put on a show. I'm a producer, so.
Oh my gosh, that would be
put on all
freaking
the shows. Let's do
amazing.
it.
Hopefully I'd love to travel that way at some point. I've never really been to that, like, towards that area of the country, so hopefully someday I'll be able to pass through there sometime.
Bring a gun. I'm just kidding. No, it's pretty crazy out here though. You do have to be careful. I mean, it's pretty rough. It's like living in LA, but like a tiny version of LA.
Oh gosh. I mean, the violence is more concentrated.
It is. It's crazy. But thanks so much again. You've been really awesome. Hopefully we'll have more conversations in the future. You've been really great. I hope to keep in touch with you.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching our weekly podcast. If you have an interesting story or topic you would like us to cover, please email us and check out our website at mnzproductions.com. We are supported by donations, so please donate to our Patreon, GoFundMe, or Cash App listed in the description below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.